the very last class of the Color Theory, Understanding Color series. Thank you so much. If you've been watching and doing all of the exercises, please share them. Send me an email and show me your work, because I would love to see what you've come up with. Thank you very much for joining me. And for our very last class, we're bringing back our value study, and we're going to see how we can apply everything that we learned so far to this painting. And I'm going to start by doing it with glazes. So I'll start with some cool glazes and then work my way into some warm glazes. And you could do anything with your painting, really. You could use your value study and totally change the colors and make it a triadic scheme, or use complementaries, or just paint it how you would normally paint it, but with all that knowledge now in your head. But before we get into painting this and that demonstration, I am going to put up on my screen all of the terminology that I've gone through this series, so you can see how much you've learned. And if you can't remember anything, just go back, rewatch it, because all the information's there. But hopefully I brainwashed you and you've got color theory brainwashing going on. And so we're going to finish with this last one. Thank you again. Let's get started. Last time you'll hear me say that. For this series, anyway. Now, I'm not sure if everyone who's done this value study has actually done a human, but because some of you might have, and I've had a request to talk about some flesh tones, I'm going to discuss that. So first we need to look at different people's flesh tones. And when we think of the overall skin, there's going to be a key color. So the color that it is the most, and it could be a little bit peachy, it could be a little bit rosy, and depending on, different people around the world have different colored skin. So African people are going to have much darker key color, obviously, and white people and Irish are going to have a very, pale key color. So we want to just look at that. So when we're looking at Lotus there, she has very peachy, warm tones to her face. Now, when we're looking at Natalia, you may not be able to tell by this picture here because it's on my computer, but her cheeks are quite crimson. She's more a rosy complexion. So her key color would be a little bit on the pink side. So when you're looking at this skin flesh tone, it's a little bit different on both sides of the arm, but to me, I feel like that's a little bit more on the rose. I found this gorgeous picture from a 70s retro 70s site, and I just love them. Just love the fashion. So the skin tone there is very different from one another as well. Like you can see that she has a lighter and warmer skin tone, and his skin tone, you have all that beautiful reflected light, a little bit of yellow and a bit of blue on the right side of his forehead there. If you're painting someone with darker skin tone, you may want to go out and get a burnt umber or a raw umber. It's just going to be a lot easier than trying to mix the perfect tones using those primary colors. But some of those reflected colors and things like that, you'll still want to have your knowledge of the primaries and how they work. Regardless to what you're painting, you want to think of it abstractly. You want to look at each subject or item and identify the key color. So that step there, I would say it's a little bit on the green side, but there's also little bits of warmth in there. So I can say it's maybe a light green, but I need to tone it down with a little bit of cadmium red and maybe some extra bits of red there where it's looking a bit warmer. And when I'm looking at my flesh, I want to say the key color is an orange, and then some areas, like that area I'm pointing out now, will be just a tint of white. The knee will have some purple in it. Now I'm going to do my demonstration on glazing first, and then I'm going to do a part 2 to this last episode. I didn't want to fill your brains with too much information, one step at a time. Glazing now, and then I'll get into thick paint in part 2, and I will also talk about mixing flesh tones in more depth. Here is my value study done with 5 values, and here is my finished glazed artwork, and let's see how I got there. So basically I set up my palette same as I do my color wheel, and I put my warms on one side, my cools on the other side. I've left the inside of that palette clear for me to be able to do my mixing. The colors I'm using are a phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, magenta, a scarlet, and yellow ochre. I'm working in oil, so I'm using a lean medium to do my glazing. If you're using acrylics, then you can use a gel medium. I will be using a series of Filbert paintbrushes, and this is what they look like. So I'm beginning by getting my lean medium and some magenta and some phthalo blue and mixing a little bit of a purple, and it's going to be transparent over that value study that we have there. You'll notice that it looks like a different color when I put it on top of the value study because there's already a brown there, so it's going to change that color. So I'm going to go around everything and I'm going to put that purple in first. I've finished my purple, so I'm wiping all that away so it's nice and clean, and now I'm going to do a green glaze around some of the areas, and I tend to be putting it on and then I go, oh, it's too strong, so I kind of use a sock to wipe it off or spread it around so it's a little bit thinner in some of those areas. I've finished doing my greens and my purple cools, and now I'm putting my warms in. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I layer the warm colors right on top of the cool colors, so they mix. So instead of getting an orange and toning it down with a green, I'm just layering an orange on top of a green, and you get the same toned down effect. Having a closer look at that glazing on top of the value study, you can see that the value study is rough as guts, and you need to have a really good value study because your paint on top is going to be transparent. It is not very forgiving at all, but it is a very luminous way to work, and you don't have to work that hard, and you don't really need to mix too much either. You can just layer different cools and warms on top of each other, and I can continue building them and building them and building them. I probably won't for this because I don't have a good value study, so I will probably want to put some thicker paint in there, especially in areas where it's a little bit lighter. But I think you get the idea. So if you did a really great value study, you can stop here and it'll probably look great. That's the end of part 1. If you would like to see some of the work that has been created by the students during this course, go to Instagram to Lori Art Teacher. I can share your work as well if you like. Just send me a DM on Instagram with a pic of your work. If you'd like to see my personal artwork, then go to Lori McKern. See you at part 2. Oh, I always forget this part. Please remember to like and share. No, like and subscribe. That's the one. Oh, and share. It's all good. See you soon for the last part of this series.